And also making headlines, we're going to talk about ABC newsman George Stephanopoulos. But first, let's talk about Brian Williams. He wants to get his news desk again, but NBC executives aren't quite sure about it. And joining us now is Ike Seamans, a retired NBC News correspondent. Thanks for joining us again.
Always a pleasure, Miranda.
So, Ike, Tom Brokaw, a former nightly news anchor at NBC, as we all know, says there's been way too much speculation surrounding the scandal and believes we need to just let the process play out. What do you think?
Well, I agree with Tom. Tom's an old friend of mine. Our careers started about the same time. We're about the same age. I've known him for many years. And when he says that, you should believe it. This investigation is supposed to run 6 months. It's run 3. Let it go out. But let me tell you one thing, Miranda, that is very intriguing about this. Since this began in January, Brokaw has been really the only person from NBC to say anything. And the reason is, in my opinion, is he's the only one at NBC News right now that has the trust from the public. He has integrity. Well, in my opinion, the NBC executives have really handled this thing very ineptly. Brokaw is the face of NBC News, and that's why he's been trotting out. But I think he's been saying now, look, I've done it. I don't want to say any more.
Well, speaking of trust and integrity, let's talk about Seymour Hersh. There's a new report out from him claiming that the Obama administration lied about certain details in the 2011 killing of Osama bin Laden. Yesterday, White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest said this.
That story is riddled with inaccuracies and outright falsehoods. The former deputy director of the CIA, Mike Morrell, has said that every sentence was wrong.
Actually, that wasn't yesterday. That was a few days ago. But, Ike, what do you make of all this?
Incredible investigative reporter, but he frequently does not source it, tell you who said these things. Well, that's what the CIA director and the White House press secretary are also doing. They're making brash statements with no justification. Show us the reports. Show us what happened. But that'll never happen. All of the information, as I understand it, every shred of it about the raid on bin Laden is in the CIA under lock and key. And you know what? If my grandchildren see this report 50 years from now, I'll turn over in my grave. So I don't put much stock in the statements that are being made about Hersh. At the same time, Hersh should source his stories better.
Right.
But you know what? Who's going to attack him when these come out? The people that are involved.
Ike, let's also talk about the big story of the day. George Stephanopoulos apologized to viewers on Clinton donations. Now he's saying he will not moderate a Republican presidential debate. He gave $75,000 in donations to the Clinton Foundation and never disclosed it.
Well, the same thing happened on a much smaller scale with Keith Olbermann when he was, I don't know, he's been around so much. It was either when he was with ESPN or wherever he went. He did the same thing. He made political contributions to candidates, and he was suspended for that. It could have been ESPN, I'm not sure. So it's not unprecedented. I'm sure that others do it. But for a guy like Stephanopoulos to do this, of course, you recall that he was and is a Clinton loyalist. When I first met him, he was part of Clinton's staff. He may have been the chief of staff during Clinton's campaign.
But should he step down? Because
yes,
ABC is standing behind him.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? He may step down, but look, he worked with Clinton a long time.
Right.
You just don't get rid of loyalties that easily. So it's a shame on him. He did wrong.
Ike Seamans, thanks so much for joining us here on Newsmax Now. Always good to have you and get your insight. Hope you'll join us again.
I will be a pleasure at any time. Thank you.
And we're going to talk more about this very subject coming up next on Newsmax Now.